What is the most disgusting secret you're hiding right now? We had a candy corn counting contest in like 4th or 5th grade where you guessed how many are in the big jar. When no one was looking, I carefully took the tape off the top thinking I was going to count them all or something, and saw that they had written the total on the inside of the top, so, being a genius, I took out about 30 of them, ate the evidence, and put my guess in for the number -35. Yeah, no. So it wouldn't be suspicious if I got it on the nose, not realizing they weren't going to recount them. The winner guessed it within 20 of the number on the bottom of the lid. So basically, I cheated, sabotaged, and still lost, and I kept all that stupidity to myself for all these years. Candy corn counting contest is an extremely fun sentence to say. As a small child, I ate an old piece of gum from under a bus seat. I'd really like to exchange my mouth for a new one. It's okay, I put that gum there and had just brushed my teeth. You are just fine. When I was 10, I used to dance nude in the balcony after a bath just to pee off my mom. In primary school, elementary, me and my friends saw water dripping from the rooftop on the playground. Without thinking, we'd let it drop into our mouths and drink it. Giggling and excited, we'd found our own water source. A teacher caught us, and we had to be checked out because it turned out the water was coming from a pipe or something that rats had ran through. Had a hope you were fine. I used to suck on icicles that were hanging from cars. Mom told me to stop, so I did it secretly. When my sister was younger, probably around 2 to 4 age range, whenever she did something I asked her to do, I gave her a dog bone as a reward. She never listened when we were younger, but as soon as I started giving her dog bones, she was a different person. It was great. This was almost 20 years ago now, and I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for my meddling mom asking why her breath smelled like dog food randomly. Rah. When I was younger, I would steal coins from my parents, and when I had enough, I would bring them to my dad and had them changed to paper bills, and he would be so proud of me for saving coins that he would buy me ice cream or sweet bread. He knew. Yes, he absolutely knew. 10 years ago I used to do the same shit. Recently, about 2 years ago, my dad told me that he knew what I was doing. We had a good laugh. I love you, Dad. I stole cigarettes from my dad when I was 18 to 19. Now I'm 24, and he steals from my pack. He knew. When I was about 5, I used to prefer cat food to normal food. Now I can't stand the taste of cat food or human food. Yes. As a student with a shitty waitering job paying me almost nothing, I used to eat the food my customers didn't want after I took their plates to the kitchen. Been there, mate. It was like a second fucking payday if someone forgot about their to-go order. Unethical life pro tip: call in a to-go order shortly before closing, then take it home when never claimed. One time I spit my gum into a donation box for kids with autism thinking it was a trash can. Is it bad that this made me laugh? That last year, when I was suspended from work for 6 months, it was due a failed post-accident drug test. I wasn't laid off. I knew it. A majority of the time, the voice in my head / first thoughts are just really unnecessarily mean towards myself, but especially others, even those I care about. Extremely nitpicky, selfish, rude, etc. thoughts. I don't understand why. Sometimes it leaks out into the real world on its really bad days, and I'm just an ass. It makes me feel pretty bad about who I am as a person sometimes, because I really just want to be a lovely person and think the best about others. And I don't feel like a good one very often because of these thoughts. I guess maybe op meant nasty equals disgusting, but it feels disgusting to me some days. Someone's mom once said, "You are not your first thoughts. You are the ones that correct them." My younger brother used to eat the dog food because he thought it would make him better friends with the dog. We began to leave a bowl out for him next to the dog bowl. You shouldn't have let him eat that. Now his babies will be born naked. Animals. Wait, you mean the skin tentacles aren't normal? That I'm sat in my office at work, surrounded by a team of socially distanced staff, and I've just shouted, "Update," managed to crack a window, and spin conference calls out long enough for everyone to go home. It's time go home and shower. Then burn this suit. Thanks for the concern. It's been a day. Stay strong. When my sister and I were little, she would lick her cat because she thought she was helping to clean him. Did you grow up in Scranton with a sister named Angela? Didn't Angela move to Scranton from Ohio? My one friend has no idea that I've known that he doesn't have kids for months. Also that I know he's been saying this and lying to everyone for attention. He tells a very convincing story. He goes into vague details. Has a photo of the girl. Says that she's been showing him fake paperwork as proof for the children. If what he says is true would be literally extortion. Everything. Little does he know that I've been watching closely and also researching to find this woman. I know she isn't real and that he's lying and been lying this whole time for almost a year. Nothing he says makes sense and it just keeps escalating, which also doesn't make sense. I literally couldn't help myself but investigate. If everyone finds out that he's been lying this whole time, it will spread like wildfire. He doesn't have many friends and the friends he did have stopped talking to him because of his compulsive lying. I had a friend like that in college. I talked to him about it, and while he took it super hard at first, I gave him examples and he broke down. It turns out he had been so severely bullied for his whole life that he had absolutely no confidence in being able to attract and keep people in his life without those lies. It took a lot of time and work on his part and me kindly and patiently reminding him when he slipped on my part. But he changed. I gained a solid friend as a result of my being willing to stick around and work with him through it. It was a life-changing experience for both of us. When I was in middle school, I was being bullied physically and mentally, quite bad. My grades dropped and my mom got upset, so there was this period of fighting before we got into therapy together. The worst thing I've ever said to my mother was, I wish I had been a miscarriage like my older brother. Mom and I are very close now, and I'm back in therapy for different issues. I once told my mom I wish she was like a reptilian that laid the eggs and then died. Not my proudest moment. When I was 8, my 19-year-old cousin tried to make out with me. I remember him rubbing my leg and kissing me in the kitchen whilst my mum was in the living room. I didn't understand what was really happening at the time, but I knew I didn't like it. I kept nervous giggling and pushing him away. After a couple of minutes he looked disappointed and walked away. I don't remember if he ever tried anything else. He was killed in an accident 3 years later, and I chose never to tell anybody as I didn't want to add to my aunt's grief. Damn, that's f-ked. I used to lie, like a lot. I used to make up stories to tell people, just for the sake of it. I don't do it anymore. Although this leads me to telling the same stories over and over. Oh, this was totally me in like first grade when I was 6. Hey, do you know that there is a bee in China which is the size of a cow and shoots its stinger like a projectile, and at one point it impaled a man straight through? It's true. Worst part is, since it was first grade, kids actually believed my nonsense. There were at least a million complete fabrications that I told these kids, and I bet that I appear like some kind of complete lunatic in their eyes looking back. No, you were 6. I used to teach little kids that age and they all make up stories. Uncle confided in me that he stopped taking the medications that are keeping him alive because he can't handle the weight of his life. Currently trying to be there for him as much as I can, but haven't told anyone because I feel like it's his choice, and I'd likely want the same in his situation. He's just worn out and feels like he's done his time and has already done what he can for the people around him. Reminds me of my uncle. We each have a rare muscle condition that will probably put us in wheelchairs later in life, and found out he's been doing meth and robbing homes to fund it. I love him so much. It hurts to see him doing something that will hurt others as well as himself. Well, the robbing homes might fund it, but the doing meth is going to go in the opposite direction. During lockdown, my sister had a meltdown because she thought I had stolen a pair of nail clippers shaped like a foot that she owned. I told her, truthfully, that I also had a pair and that she had stolen mine. They actually were hers. I found mine an hour later. Rather than tell her, I gave back hers and said, if they mean so much to you, you can have them. I then hid mine in her bag. When she went back home after lockdown, she got there and found the 2 nail clippers and now believes that she was wrong and that the nail clippers she had a meltdown over were actually mine. That's why I'm happy I'm an only child. In biology class we were dissecting a pig's eyeball and my hand slipped and the eyeball fell on the floor, and me being extremely lazy I kicked it under a cabinet and it lay there for 2 years until someone finally found it. I'm just picturing some unfortunate cleaner randomly finding this f-king dissected eyeball. I've cleaned BO labs and a desiccated eyeball isn't even very high on the list of disgusting things we find. Once body parts are dried up, they hardly smell at all. I'm in a lot of debt and it's potentially going to ruin my relationship. I've been there, man. I'm almost on the other side of it now. I'll be debt free by November when my first child is born. Look up a credit counseling service in your area. That's what I did. My quality of life has gone up so much it's incredible. I secretly broke a 2500 euros printer. That is rare and precious. I just fixed it just enough that the second person using it got blamed for this and almost expelled from school. Maybe the person before you did the same thing to you. It's a tradition going back generations. I made up a person. When I was in high school, I wanted to sound more popular, so I made up a guy friend. He had an incredibly interesting backstory. This went on 4 years. Well into college, I had the same friends, so I couldn't just end the charade. The funny thing is all of these people, my family, my best friend, even my husband believe that they met this man. I never introduced them to anyone, but over the years, they all have different memories of seeing him. Finally, I just sort of phased him out, saying that we grew apart and lost touch. And yet, people will randomly ask me for updates on him. I just give vague answers and watch my husband smirk from across the room. My husband is the only person who knows the truth. I'm so ashamed that I will never admit it. That lie was such a dumb thing that snowballed. This is honestly great and actually made me laugh. However, it's crazy how memories are so fluid and unreliable. A buddy of mine had a wife that used to be a stripper. She ended up leaving him for one of her patrons. Before she left him, she was impregnated by him, my buddy. She ended up marrying the guy she left him for, and the newish dad is basically raising his kid. I'm still friends with both of them on Facebook, since I was cool with both of them, and her son definitely looks like him. This was maybe 7 to 8 years ago. I just shut the F up about the whole situation. I drew a massive P on the ceiling in my art classroom, probably a meter long, and it's been there for years. I asked friends who have brothers and sisters there, and they say it's still there. It's been like 8 years now. It's now the school's heritage. They're going to make it the mascot. Mascot.